Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I wanted to chat with you about reverb pedals, and I recently picked up this ALABS Cetus reverb pedal. I got it because it's so inexpensive and it does so much, and I wanted to check it out because of that. I was actually a little surprised at what I read about it. It has 9 algorithms, it's stereo, it has pre-delay, modulation, it has freeze, it ramps, and it's 120 bucks. Now, it actually went up a bit in price. It was 110 a few months ago when I bought it. So it is going up, but it's still pretty cheap. And frankly, I'm not sure there's another reverb pedal for that price with all those features right now. Maybe there is, I can't think of one on the top of my head. Like, you have the Boss RV6, the Hall of Fame 2, the Ocean's 11, but those are all a little more expensive. And by the way, I'm talking new prices, not used, right? One reason I'm talking about price and reverb pedals, there is a new BigSky pedal. And I'm sure you know what that pedal is, but if you don't, it's easy to find out all about it. But this new version of the BigSky is retailing for $679 right now. Now, that's pretty expensive, and it got me thinking about price and, what that means to us musicians. And that kind of circles me back to this Cetus reverb pedal. When I first looked at the algorithms on this pedal, well, to me they seemed like they were inspired by a BigSky type pedal, but instead of almost $700, it's 120 bucks, which is crazy. Now, I don't think it's even a question that prices are going to keep going up on everyone, and many people right now are hurting financially. And in fact, I can't think of a lot of people I know that aren't feeling that way, at least somewhat. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm not aware of a strong correlation between being a musician and having a lot of spare cash. So cost definitely matters, and that's why I'm talking about this inexpensive pedal today. So here's what I'd like to do. I want to demo this pedal. I want to quickly go through all the algorithms and features. I'm not going to deep dive this pedal. But what I do want to do is give you an idea what it does, and it does a lot. And I'm also going to compare it against a BigSky briefly. Not the new BigSky, because I don't have one of those, but my old original, trusty, much-loved BigSky. I feel like that comparison can be helpful to you. So let's dive in here and let's see what we have with this Cetus reverb pedal. All right, so let's start with the Decay knob. Now, the manual doesn't really say what the full range of the Decay is on this pedal, and I interpret that to mean that each patch has its own Decay range, so it's probably going to be shorter or longer depending what you're on. Now, next we have the brightness knob. That's going to make the reverb go brighter or darker. I'm going to play around with that in a little bit, but I think it's pretty obvious what that does. And then finally we have the mix knob. That deals with how much reverb is in the signal. So this pedal is 50% wet dry at about the 2 p.m. position. Okay, so the knob on the left handles what patch or algorithm you're in. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The knob in the middle on that second row is the pre-delay or the modulation knob, and you can see it has a label at the top and the bottom. Well, to the right of that is a switch. If the switch is pushed up, that means that middle knob is actually controlling your pre-delay. And if the switch is pushed down, that means it's controlling the modulation. So let me quickly let you hear what that is. So here's no pre-delay. And here's a lot of pre-delay. And then if you push the switch down once again, we're going to hear modulation. So let's hear no modulation on that patch. Full modulation. Now let's get back to this multi-purpose switch on the right here, because it does a lot. So this pedal has a long press function on the foot switch. So that means when you hold down the foot switch for a longer time, it does something. And you can do two different things by holding down the foot switch, depending on what that multi-purpose switch is set to. So it sounds a little confusing saying it, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So there's a little icon at the top of the switch that shows like a snowflake, and that is the freeze mode. So here's how you engage freeze mode on this pedal. What you do is you play a note, hold down the foot switch, you can see the light turn blue, and it's freezing my note. When you release, it's done freezing. So. And then while you're freezing, you can obviously play over what is being frozen. So you can hold a chord or, hold a drone and noodle over it. So moving the multi-switch down puts you into infinite mode. And this is a very cool feature. It's basically a ramping function. And here's how you do it. So you go into the infinite mode on the switch, which we just did. What you do is you activate the infinite mode by holding down the foot switch until the light goes purple. So it'll do that. The light is going to start flashing purple, which means it's recording changes. And you can store up to 4 curves, one for each of the 4 knobs besides the reverb patch knob. The curves are recorded in a 5-second time frame. So if the curve is faster than 5 seconds, it's just going to remain at its end state for the end of it. So let's quickly go through this. So I have a loop playing. Let's record curves on Decay and Bright. Okay, I actually recorded 3 curves there. So I have a curve on Decay, a curve on Bright, and a curve on the mix knob, okay? Now, those don't just automatically play. Those only play when you hold down the foot switch after you've recorded the curves. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's get to the fun part. So I want to show you all the reverb types. Now, Hall is a mid-size Hall sound, so it sounds like this. Okay, so this is the maximum decay. Gets pretty bright. And obviously, if you want to go for the big ambient thing, we can just crank all of these. Okay, so the next one is Room. Room is a mid-size room sound, and it has more absorption than Hall. And you can hear it. It definitely sounds boxier. It's got that kind of darker sound than the Hall, I think. Let's hear how much decay this gets. Okay, next is church. Now, church is a large cathedral sound. So that's full decay. Listen to that. It's pretty enormous. I actually call this the Cocteau Twins patch. So now we're on spring reverb, and you know what spring reverb is. Now, this one's a little different with the modulation parameter, because this not only controls the modulation, but it also adjusts the amount of gain driving the springs. So that is a setting apparently called dwell. I had no idea that's what dwell is, but I'd seen it on things before. So yeah, we're all learning. I mean, for a spring reverb, that's a lot of decay. So that's how the dwell and modulation changes it. I really think for this patch, you have to have some of the modulation and the dwell dialed in for it to sound more springish. So this is full dwell, full mix. So the next one is plate reverb. This is inspired by the EMT 140 plate reverb. I'm too stupid to know what the EMT 140 plate reverb is. I'm assuming it's a really famous one. Let's really listen to a short and a long decay on this. Okay, now we're on the swell setting, and on this one, the modulation knob is going to extend the duration of the swell. And according to the manual, if you set the decay to minimum and the mix to maximum, you'll kind of max out this volume swell effect. So I have the pedal set up that way. Yeah, you really want that mix to be maxed out. So mod is going to extend the swell duration. So now I have that cranked. Let's hear what that does. I wonder what pre-delay does for this. Let's find out. So there's no pre-delay. Interesting. So the pre-delay does seem to impact this. Kind of gives you a beat before the swell starts kicking in. And if you have the pre-delay off, it kicks in more immediately. And if you crank the decay, the swell turns into a nice reverb tail at the end. It's not as dry. Okay, now we're on to Shimmer, which is normally not my favorite mode. So let's find out what all these knobs do. I have the mix cranked on this. And now we're on the cloud setting. So this is a very wide soaring reverb. I'm sure when you hear cloud, you're probably thinking of maybe some other reverb pedals. I'm going to make this a little majestic. Finally, we are at the last one. This is the wave setting. This setting is intended to depict the ocean. And when I first read that, I didn't understand it, but I actually think they did a pretty good job of that on this one. So now I'm going to do something that may not be fair to the Cetus, but I'd like to do a comparison. So I'd argue that the cloud parameter on the BigSky is very iconic. So let's hear the cloud parameter on the BigSky versus the cloud parameter on the Cetus. Let's see what this is like. I have not done this yet, so I don't know what to expect. So let's start by maybe dialing in something on the Cetus as like a nice cloud sound. I have the mix cranked so I can kind of hear the reverb and figure out what I want to do with it. Maybe a little modulation. I think the pre-delay, give it a little bit. And now let's get some modulation in here. I don't hate that. That sounds pretty good. Now we're going to hear it on the BigSky. So I have the mix cranked. Pre-delay's turned up. I've got the tone really dark. I think I'll brighten it a little bit. And I've got the modulation about thusly. All the extra parameters are turned off on the BigSky. I don't know how close those two are, but let's listen to each one. And I'm going to do full mix so you can really hear it. So that's full mix on the Cetus. And that's full mix on the BigSky. I am very curious what everyone thinks about that, so please leave a comment below and let me know. Now, let me say, I am very impressed with the Cetus. It sounds really damn good, and it does a lot for 120 bucks. It's a great pedal. I'm really impressed by it, actually. Like, especially if you're just starting to play guitar. What a great tool for very little money. If you only knew the terrible reverb pedals that I had to use when I was starting out. Like, this thing blows all of that right out of the water. Now, that audio comparison between the BigSky and the Cetus, that could be misleading in either direction, you know, depending on your taste in sounds, what you like. I'm not trying to say the Cetus is a cheaper BigSky. It isn't. The feature set is vastly different, and I personally think the BigSky sounds significantly better than the Cetus. So I know I only compared a single patch in the video, and I wish I had time to compare them all, but honestly, I feel like that was the quickest way to illustrate the sound difference that I hear between the two pedals. By the way, the BigSky should sound way better because it is 4 times the cost, and that's the old BigSky. Like, the new BigSky costs around 5.5 times as much. So once again, why did I compare those two pedals? Well, I compared them because I want you to know that you do get a premium sound for paying more, obviously. Like, you know, Strymon just doesn't have some pedal that isn't worth it and it's gonna rip you off if you get it. I don't believe that. But I also wanted to let you know that, you know, the difference in those sounds, it is different in the two cloud algorithms, but is it really that different? Am I cork sniffing? I don't know. I just wanted you to hear it, and I just want to say I think the BigSky sounds better, but I also think the Cetus sounds really good, and I think that if you want a multi-algorithm pedal and you don't want to pay 500 bucks or 600-700 bucks or whatever, get that thing. Like, it's really good. And again, there's a lot of other good pedals too. It's not just between those two. Let me just say, I think it's important to have good cheap gear for musicians who don't have a lot of cash, because crappy gear isn't very inspiring to play. That's why we care so much about the guitars that we buy and play and the pedals that we use, right? Well, there's some very good guitars right now that are very cheap, and guess what? There's a very good reverb pedal that is also very cheap, and that is the Cetus. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video helped. Please hit the subscribe button below and give the video a like, because that helps the channel grow. And between you and me, because I've been so inconsistent making videos this past year, I need all the growth help I can get. Now, if you want to support the channel and see more videos like this, well, I'm going to release some music very soon on Bandcamp. So the best way to help out would be to purchase that when it comes out, which will hopefully be soon, and I hope to be announcing sometime in the next couple weeks. Until then, take care, my friends, and have a good one.